Every empire claims greatness, but ancient Rome earned it by treating warfare as the ultimate laboratory of ideas. From the first clash with hill tribes in Latium to the thunder of catapults on the Danube, Roman commanders kept asking the same ruthless question: how can we win faster, cheaper, and with fewer Roman dead? The answers they forged were equal parts engineering, psychology, and sheer audacity. Roads that let legions appear weeks earlier than scouts predicted. Bridges that sprang from rivers in days. Spears designed to cripple an enemy shield with one shuddering impact. Each innovation pressed Rome's enemies into a smaller and smaller corner of possibility. Yet the true genius of the legions was never a single weapon or one supreme general. It was an institutional hunger for adaptation. Lose a battle? Study the defeat until it confessed its hidden lessons. Meet a tactic you cannot break? Absorb it, twist it, and return it deadlier than before. Today, you and I turn back the pages of dusty chronicles to watch 12 of Rome's most shocking strategic masterstrokes unfold. Some are feats of steel, others feats of the mind, but every one left foreign kings staring, open-mouthed, at a crimson banner advancing through their disbelief. Picture a Gallic warrior, muscles tense behind an oval shield of hardwood and sinew. He expects the Romans to hurl ordinary javelins, fast, lethal, but soon spent. Instead, the air hisses with pila, shafts half as heavy again, tipped with long, soft iron necks. When each pilum punches through wood, the iron bends, hanging like a crooked nail. The Gaul tries to yank it free. The shaft drags his whole shield downward, useless weight. He has two choices: drop protection or fight half-blinded. The Romans designed the pilum not merely to wound flesh, but to amputate the enemy's defense before sword blades ever met muscle. In line after disciplined line, legionaries closed the gap behind a snowfall of warped spears, each fallen shield widening the path to victory. By turning a cheap throwaway weapon into a psychological wrecking ball, Rome reminded every foe that sometimes the battle is lost the instant before steel bites skin. Centuries before the cohort became famous, Rome's killing machine was the maniple. Three small checkerboard lines, hastati, principes, triarii, worked like living cogs. Where a Greek phalanx was a solid plank, the maniple was a parquet floor, grip firm, yet each board able to pivot. As terrain undulated, maniples slipped around boulders, flooded gullies, or folded inward to swallow a wedge of charging Celts. Senior centurions barked orders. Entire gaps yawned open, pulling pursuing foes into pockets that slammed shut behind them. At Cynocephalae in 197 BC, Philip V of Macedon watched his invincible pike wall stall on broken ground. Roman maniples flowed between ridges, hit the phalangites' exposed flanks, and shattered a 100-year military dogma in a single storming hour. It wasn't brute force that undid Macedon. It was a skeleton of agile rectangles turning rigidity into liability. To the untrained eye, a legion on the march looks defensive. Rows of broad scuta curving like red lacquered doors. But each shield's left-hand spine and boss were forged for assault. The legionary slammed that boss forward like a heavyweight's hook, splitting lips, crushing cartilage, forcing an enemy chin skyward for the dagger thrust that followed. Together, those shields overlapped into a rippling iron surf. Any barbarian brave enough to leap upon it found no gaps, only 1,000 fists of oak and bronze battering him back. Where Greek hoplites braced behind a flat wall, Romans treated the shield itself as a bludgeon, an offensive weapon multiplied by every soldier in the line. Historians count the dead after Rome's victories. They seldom count the broken noses, shattered collarbones, and fear that spread even faster. Imagine chasing an army that vanishes at dusk and reappears at dawn behind a new timber fort. Every evening, Roman pioneers dropped their packs, drew measured furrows in the dark soil, and raised a palisade of sharpened stakes before the first stars faded. Ditches fronted the walls. Watchtowers crowned the corners. Inside, neat streets aligned tents by century, smithy fires glowed, and the standard fluttered above the general's headquarters, all before most foes finished dinner. The marching camp robbed enemies of surprise night assaults, protected supply wagons, and, crucially, gave weary legionaries 8 hours of sleep inside walls their own hands made. No other classical army duplicated that grind of engineering discipline, and none marched so many miles while remaining nearly impossible to ambush. Momentum is not merely speed. It is the certainty your adversary finds no soft hour in which to strike. To be everywhere and nowhere is the prerogative of the gods, sneered one Greek philosopher, unless you are Roman and have a road. Nearly 400,000 kilometers of graded stone arteries stitched the provinces together, but their most lethal function was operational shock. When rebellion flared in Pannonia, legions from Aquileia arrived before provincial spies finished chiseling warnings into wax tablets. Provincial kings planned seasonal campaigns. Romans planned weekend counteroffensives. And because every milestone doubled as a mapstone, couriers sped orders with unnerving clarity. Defeat a legion, and its twin might crest the horizon the same sunset, invisible that morning. Rome weaponized infrastructure, turning geography, the oldest ally of guerrillas, into an accomplice of empire. In 55 BC, Germanic warlords mocked Julius Caesar from the east bank of the Rhine, certain no Roman army could cross the swirling kilometer-wide torrent in strength. Caesar answered by felling riverside oaks, ramming twin rows of angled piles into the riverbed, and lashing them together with wattled beams in 10 working days. Legionaries then thundered across a timber highway as broad as a city avenue, torches blazing, trumpets howling. Germanic scouts fled deeper into the forests, stunned that an obstacle meant to halt centuries of Roman ambition fell in barely more than a week. Having made his point, Caesar burned the bridge behind him, a pyrotechnic signature on the psychological contract he had just rewritten. No frontier is safe from Roman resolve. From the limestone quarries of Syracuse to the tundra forts of Scotland, Roman engineers assembled ballistae and onagers, whose sinew-tight skeins whipped missiles 2 football fields away. The shock lay not only in range or penetration, but in accuracy. Ballista bolts could snipe commanders off horseback. Onager stones crashed exactly where scouting options had driven wooden range stakes the night before. At Jotapata in Judea, a single battery silenced rampart towers one by one, each strike announced by the wail of torsion ropes tightening like some angry god inhaling. For besieged defenders, it felt as though Rome had bent the horizon into a sling and flung the earth itself at their battlements. Walls once thought eternal cracked like pottery under mathematics and sinew. When Titus encircled Jerusalem in AD 70, he knew stone could be stubborn, faith even more so. Instead of frontal assault, his engineers diverted aqueducts, choking the city's cisterns while filling Roman reservoirs to the brim. Tunnels that might have offered escape filled with brackish sludge. Desert sun baked the hope out of every parched zealot peering over the ramparts. Rome had no need to storm every wall when it could unmake the environment itself. By turning water, the stuff of life, into an instrument of surrender, Titus proved no natural element lay beyond the reach of Roman exploitation. After Cannae, panic swept the Republic. Hannibal roamed Italy unopposed, and every senator screamed for a decisive stand, except Quintus Fabius Maximus. He chose a strategy later nicknamed conctatio, delay, harass foragers, torch supplies, barricade mountain passes, but never risk battle against Carthage's superior cavalry. Critics mocked him as the shield of Rome. Yet grain ran out in Hannibal's camps long before courage ran out in Roman hearts. Each day of fruitless marching sapped the invaders' morale. Each skirmish that bled his scouts left the Carthaginian line a little thinner. Victory, Fabius taught, sometimes marches on silent feet until the enemy collapses beneath an invisible weight of attrition. Rome learned the lesson so well that later generals wielded time with the same cold precision as they wielded swords. Scipio Africanus studied Hannibal and paid him the compliment of imitation, reversed. At Ilipa in 206 BC, he formed his army at dawn with Spaniards in the center, veterans on the wings, mimicking a habitual deployment. Carthaginian commanders mirrored him, never noticing Roman maniples breakfasting on a meager ration and not moving to their usual places. When morning mist lifted, Scipio swapped his lines at a run. Elites pressed the center where Carthage was weakest, while Iberian allies pinned enemy flanks. A day's worth of heat and dust later, Hasdrubal's army lay ripped apart, victims of the first full-scale tactical bait-and-switch in Mediterranean history. Rome learned that darkness could hide not only movement, but intention, and the dawn itself might be born a lie. Romans committed atrocities, mass crucifixions along the Appian Way after Spartacus, entire villages sold into slavery. And yet, in the next breath, they could pardon surrendered cities, leaving local elites in power under Roman oversight. The unpredictability was the tactic. Resistance might end in horrors too vivid to speak, while capitulation could secure civic rights, trade access, even Roman citizenship. By tying survival to submission, Rome forced rebels to gamble their families on the roll of one strategic decision. It is astonishing how many chose peace when yesterday's rebels adorned the highway as silent, spiked billboards advertising Roman wrath. Rome never fought alone. Slingers from the Balearics, Syrian archers, Numidian light cavalry, Thracian peltasts, all took their place beside the legion's heavy infantry. Where Celtic chariots rattled too quick for mailed foot soldiers, Numidian horsemen lured them wide, then vanished behind a curtain of Balearic stones. Where Parthian horse archers stung and withdrew, Syrian arrows answered volley for volley, while legionaries entrenched. By grafting foreign talents onto a Roman command corps, the empire transformed diversity into a proprietary weapon system. Every battlefield, every climate, every enemy weakness met a unit custom-bred to exploit it. Conquerors often impose uniformity. Rome cultivated controlled variation and harvested domination from its hybrid vigor. Steel dulls, walls fall, and fire cools, but ideas sharpen with every trial. Rome's legacy of tactical invention outlived the eagles that once glittered over grim columns of men. Medieval princes studied the pilum and dreamed of shield-breaking lances. Napoleon pored over Fabian delay and spun it into continental blockade. Modern engineers still gasp at Caesar's Rhine bridge as they blueprint combat pontoon spans. The empire collapsed, yet its art of war continues to recruit new students from every military academy on Earth. What binds these 12 tactics together is not simply their success, but their audacity. A willingness to see warfare not as a ritual to be repeated, but as a puzzle to be cracked. That spirit, pitiless, virtuous, inventive, and endlessly curious, proved more durable than marble forums or gilded triumphs. And if the ghosts of legionaries march anywhere tonight, they march in the minds of strategists still searching for the next impossible advantage.